And finally, a deal has been reached, a $2 trillion spending deal, and the White House and the Senate finally agree on it. Now, I don't know if you know about what the last deal did and all the things that the Democrats had slipped in there, but they'd slipped things in such as you had to have diversity officers. Every company that had over a certain amount of employees had to have diversity officers, and there were hiring practices based solely on your sex and your disability status. There were also things that renewed and automatically renewed foreign visas. So basically, foreign employees working in the United States were way more important than you. Thank you, Democrats. You're just, yeah, exactly, yeah. Thanks, Democrats. So anyways, we got a new bill. Well, God, let's hope it's better than the last one. The White House and Senate leaders reached an agreement early Wednesday on a massive $2 trillion spending bill aimed at alleviating the economic impact of the outbreak. At last, we have a deal. After days of intense discussions, the Senate has reached a bipartisan agreement. Wow! Hell froze over. On a historic relief package for this pandemic, Senator Majority Leader Mitch McConnell announced from the Senate floor shortly before 2 a.m. on Wednesday. In effect, this is a wartime level of investment for our nation, because it is. It is a wartime. It just so happens that the enemy is very, very, very tiny. McConnell said he expected the Senate to pass the legislation later Wednesday after it returns at noon Eastern Time. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin told reporters that the President Donald Trump would absolutely sign it if Congress passes it. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said the Senate floor early Wednesday, "We have a bipartisan agreement on the largest rescue package in American history. This is not a moment of celebration, but one out of necessity." Yeah, and it was necessary like last week, but the Democrats couldn't get their ideological heads out of their ideological assholes to breathe long enough and get that oxygen and that blood back to their brains. They could think. All they were seeing was money and how they get their personal donors, the lobbyists that gave them money, satisfied. I mean, some of the things in that bill were absolutely absurd. It's just dumb. What does making sure that you give a majority of your money to women-owned businesses, why? Well, how does that help the American people, number one? Number two, why do we have to give the majority of our money to women-owned businesses? Why? Why should that even be a thing? Like all company compromises, this bill is far from perfect, but we believe the legislation has been improved significantly to warrant its quick consideration and passage. And because many Democrats and Republicans were willing to do the serious and hard work, the bill is much better off than where it started, he added. God, I hope so. I have not seen the details of the bill yet, and I am really itching for it. I haven't seen a release yet that I could download and read for the next 14 hours. If it's a long bill. In a letter to the Senate Democrat caucus, Schumer said that his members are ready to give unanimous consent to speed up consideration of the measure. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said in a statement Wednesday morning that the legislation takes us a long way down the road in meeting the needs of the American people, but she did not say whether or how the House would make up the legislation if the Senate passes it. Okay, Pelosi, did you take out like 99.999% of the bullshit that was in there the first time? Because a lot of that had nothing to do with the American people. A lot of it had to do with taxing planes for their emissions at an exorbitant rate. What does that have to do with helping us out right now? What does having diversity training officers in every corporation that has over 30 employees have to do with getting us out of this crisis right now? No, they were all ideological plugs designed at getting money for these little pet projects that other lobbyists had paid these senators, these representatives, whatever their position is. That's all it was. Money, freaking money, freaking money, freaking money. Although, as I had said, the full text of the bill isn't known yet. They said that it would include initial GOP proposals for direct cash payments to Americans. Good. That is absolutely needed, in my opinion. Absolutely needed. Under the plan, people making up to $75,000 a year are expected to receive checks for $1,200. Couples making up to $150,000 would receive $2,400, with an additional $500 per child. The new agreement removed the phased-in provision that would have excluded lower-income Americans from receiving the full benefit. The first one was the rich got the brunt of the cash. I mean, flat out. It was like they looked at the poor and said, "You're poor. We don't even want to touch you." I was flabbergasted. I don't even agree with this one. $150,000 a year, receive $2,400. How about, the poor Americans are going to need more. The poor Americans are going to need more. The poor Americans are going to need more. I mean, I don't know how. The payment would decrease for those making more than $75,000 with an income cap of $99,000 per individual, or $198,000 for couples. Couples and individuals. So individuals making more than $75,000. Still, the poor need more help. I mean, the prices of things are going to be crazy. Here's what's going to happen. Businesses have lost a lot of money through this, and they're going to look for ways to recuperate their money. So when we come off this lockdown and life goes back to normal, there are going to be certain things that are going to be even more expensive. Human nature, business nature, that's just the way things are. Mark my words right here. Mark it. It's going to happen. And we're going to hear people crying out, "Whoa, why are you raising these prices for this? Why? It's unfair." And then businesses are going to say, "Well, why? It's unfair. Do we have to lower these prices? You're going to close our business. You would rather have our business open so you can get the goods in the first place rather than have our business closed. You can't get the goods at all, right? We have to charge more because we have lost this much money and we have our investors we have to pay and we have overhead and blah, 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 blah." You know the drill. The bill is also expected to include roughly $100 billion in assistance for hospitals, $350 billion in assistance to small businesses, $500 billion in aid for corporations, including airline companies and cruise lines that have been hurt by the outbreak, and about $150 billion for state and local stimulus funds. Only $150 billion for state and local stimulus funds? Well, what the Okay. All right. Unemployment insurance would also be significantly bolstered for 4 months by increasing payments and extending the benefit to those who typically do not qualify, such as gig economy workers. It's a good thing California got rid of the gig economy, huh? Furloughed employees and freelancers. And you do realize that this is going to bring back the gig economy. I mean, it's going to skyrocket the gig economy. It really is. I mean, think about it. You have these big corporations with lots of people, right, that can do something. Let's say electricians. And this corporation employs 40 electricians. Well, you're sitting at home thinking 40 electricians. Wow, that's a lot of people and groups and this and that. I think it's going to bring back the gig economy. Specifically, the bill would increase the maximum unemployment benefit that a state gives to a person by $600 per week. And according to Schumer, ensures that laid-off workers on average will receive their full pay for 4 months. The agreement also would prohibit businesses controlled by Trump, Vice President Pence, members of Congress, and heads of executive departments from receiving loans or investments from Treasury programs. But only Congress, not... Okay. The White House first pitched a stimulus plan to Senate Republicans early last week, and then McConnell introduced the Republican proposal last Thursday, giving lawmakers less than a week to negotiate a deal, draft legislative text, and vote on a package. I would wager that if the Democrats hadn't overloaded the first round with all the gobbledygook, virtual signaling, let's get woke bullcrap, then, well, it would have passed a lot sooner. Negotiations, yeah, they came to a head on how much unemployment insurance should be extended, and also on that one was whether workers should prove that they're going to work or not. I forget what the program is called. When you're on unemployment, you have to prove you're going to work a certain number of job applications per day or per week or whatever it is. They got rid of that. Well, good, because there's a lot of places closed. Where are you going to go look? I mean, it's common sense. Distressed corporation, as well as for distressed corporations, Democrats specifically opposed what they called a $500 billion slush fund for big corporations. But the final deal includes oversight measures for that money. Oversight by whom? I really want to see the release of the details of this so I can read it, and it will at least take up my time for a good 12 to 14 hours. Schumer said the initial Republican plan would not have dedicated enough money to hospitals, and he called for a Marshall Plan for the healthcare system. Senators, along with representatives from the White House, huddled in the Capitol over the weekend, early this week, to hammer out a deal. And as I said, we do not know the details of the bill. They haven't released them. When they released them, and after I've read them and scratched my head and went on Google and said, what does this word mean and what does that word mean, as these bills constantly and always do, then I will let you guys know if my brain hasn't turned to mush after reading it. Sometimes it does. But a bill has been set, it seems. We will see. I love you guys. And I'll see you on the next one.